What's up, everybody? It's your girl Danny. Welcome back to my channel. Now, the last time I posted here, I posted about turning 40. I was excited, I was feeling good, I thought I had life all figured out. As it turns out, I didn't. Turning 40 has been the ghetto. I haven't posted here since because I have continued to experience continued grief, unemployment, divorce proceedings, pregnancy loss, and I moved back in with my mother. Not quite the glow up I was going for. But I want to turn my pain into purpose. I want to share my stories in hopes of building a sense of community with like-minded individuals going through similar life circumstances where we can encourage and support one another. I plan on posting every Thursday, so hit that subscribe button and turn your notifications on. Now go ahead, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Do it right now. Now without further ado, let's get right into today's video. Growing Up Haitian. The good, the bad, the ugly. So I wanted to come on here and share about my experiences growing up. I don't think I've ever done this on this channel before. I thought it'd be really fun to take you down memory lane. Now, growing up Haitian is not for the faint of heart. Yes, only a select few of us have the honored privilege of growing up surrounded by the best food. Yes, I said it. I'm gonna die on that hill. Great music and resilient, hardworking people. But they also have the worst case of emotional abuse imaginable. Okay, what I should have started off by saying is that all experiences and opinions are based off of my experiences and they are my own. So I can't generalize. I don't want to generalize. But a lot of us tend to think the same thing. My parents immigrated to Canada from Haiti in the late 70s, early 80s. So my mom came in the late 70s. My dad came in the early 80s. And they had me shortly after. They were trying to subscribe to the North American way of raising kids. I wrote an article a couple of years ago for the CBC Parents where I interviewed my mom, and it was about cultural differences and her having immigrated here. And I asked her, did she ever feel any pressure having to, conform to raising her kids the Canadian way? And she was like, no pressure. She was like, I'm not trying to raise my kids Canadian. Y'all are Haitian kids. Yeah, you could take the Haitian out of Haiti, but you can't take the Haiti out of the Haitian. Okay. So not only were my parents Haitians, but they were Christian Haitians. And what this meant was there was an added layer of strictness to the way they were raising us. We went to church every Sunday. We didn't miss not one service. You're probably wondering, what if you were sick? Well, the reasoning behind that was there is healing in the house of the Lord. Amen. I think the first Sunday I ever missed was when I had the chicken pox. And outside of the regular Sunday church services, we had these réunions de prières during the weekday. Now, I promise you, if I can sing along to the Chant d'Espérance, if you know, you know, it's the Haitian Christian hymn book. If I could sing along to pretty much every song in there, it was because I am programmed, having attended all of these prayer meetings as a child. I was raised on the Duriac sauce pois diet. That's rice and bean sauce. Yum. Now, not so bad for me. My metabolism might think otherwise. There was a tea for every ailment. If you had a headache, a stomach ache, there was probably a tea for that you had to drink against your will. There is no talking back. You wouldn't even think of it. No. No playing with friends. My parents didn't really care much for friends. If I came to them with problems that I was having with friends, or like, nobody told you to make friends, we didn't send you to school to make friends. We sent you to school to learn, okay? And so that kind of gave me some issues with making friends into adulthood. And it was a really sheltered upbringing as well. So I wasn't really out here doing a lot. There were no sleepovers. Sleepovers, yeah. But you know what? That one I'm not mad at. I'm actually very thankful now that knowing what I know now into adulthood, looking back, hearing the stories, I'm like, okay, good call on that one. They weren't just trying to kill our vibe. And it's one that I, even as a parent now, I uphold. There are no sleepovers at our house. Spankings. Yeah, my parents spanked us, and they did so to instill fear, which worked. I think they loved us. I want to say this. My parents, I know they loved us. They did the best they could. They worked really hard. But they could only give what they had. So if that was the upbringing they had, that was what they gave. And I feel there's also like a lack of love and affection. And that's also as a result of what they didn't, they couldn't give it. They didn't have it. And I've had conversations with my dad about that. And so back to the spankings. They spanked, and that instilled fear, and that made me feel like I was walking on eggshells. I have developed people pleasing tendencies. I have a very hard time, just to avoid trouble, I have a very hard time standing my ground. Um, I just do what I need to do to survive, even if that meant lie, or I find that I would over explain things that are unnecessary. Till this day, even if I'm speaking to somebody completely random, I'm finding myself have to break it down and explain why I didn't do or why I did what I did. I remember really feeling small having to talk to my dad. Like, I felt like this, he was like some kind of giant. And it didn't matter that I was an adult. Well into adulthood, I would shrink because I was scared. Boundaries and privacy, there is no such thing. So I have very porous boundaries. I overshare. And I also have a hard time setting boundaries because Haitian parents don't respect those. Being compared to as a tool to motivate. Now, at one point, I thought my parents were just making things up. Like, oh, so and so's room is clean. Why isn't your room clean? And I'm like, you've never even been to so and so's house. Like, I know you don't know their room is clean. There's no way. But they would use it as like as a tool to, like I said, to motivate, and it wouldn't, because instead now I find myself trying to compare myself as the barometer of how I'm supposed to be, when all you really had to be like is you need to clean your room because I said so, and like, you know, you have to respect yourself and keep a tidy space. So lots of comparison. Like, we were the worst kids. Okay, you would think we were out here shooting up drugs. I told my parents once, I was like, you really think you guys got it bad? Like, you're acting like you got it bad. I just got a B or a C. Like, relax. You'd think I like shot up a store or something. The way, the dramatics, they are dramatic people. Everything is just so extra. I think they really just had a really high expectation of us. Not I think, I know that. My father used to say it. He's like, you guys are Noel folks. You're descendants of you know, very intelligent people. So he had this really high level of expectation for us, and obviously having immigrated here, it was like he didn't do that for nothing. So he wanted us to meet these expectations, but I think the problem was he wanted us to meet him at the expectation he had, and not at the maybe the talent and capacities that we had. So me being a creative, instead of fostering that, he was really stuck on like, you will be a doctor and you will do this, and it was just like the mediocrity, why can't you be like this? And so I understand it now, because I just see that he just wanted the best. Like, as a parent, you see your kid in a certain light, and to see that they don't see themselves in that light can be very frustrating. But again, it's that fine line where it was like, it was only his way or the highway. Like, there was no other route to success. And so he was constantly disappointed, and obviously we're constantly just trying to please him, but like never really being able to meet his expectation, because it's also going against the grain of like maybe what we want to do. There was a lot of also emotional abuse, and that is kind of like, you know, there's the gaslighting, there's the emotional manipulation, like, why are you doing this to me? What have I done to deserve this? Like, it was always like, they took things so personal, like it always came back to them. Oh, that's a great example. My father used to pastor a church before he passed, and you know, like, I grew up in that church, and I decided in the past couple of years that I would go somewhere else. And it was, why are my kids like this? What did I do? And you know, a lot of criticizing, um again, just making you feel like you could never do something right. And that's such a toxic environment. And so there came a time in adulthood where after I get married, mind you, I never moved out, because I was told that young girls don't move out, they stay at home until they get married. So I didn't leave until I got married. And let me tell you, I think it was there was a little bit of a precipitation to want to get married because of the home environment, but that's a story for another day. But I do remember coming back and having a sit down with my parents where I was able to share and say, like, listen, I think this was a toxic environment. And I would encourage anybody to, that, like, maybe you didn't grow up Haitian, but obviously, like, maybe you had an upbringing where you had some challenges, to sit down and talk to your parents if you can, safely, and do so. And I was really glad I had that opportunity where I sat down with my parents and I told them, like, the environment didn't make me feel safe. I think it led to me making some choices I shouldn't have made. And I've had abortions. I opened up and confessed about those and said, like, I didn't feel like I could come to you, and I should have. And they handled it very well. And I say handled very well in the sense that in the past, again, it would kind of just like reflect bounce back on you. Like they couldn't take accountability, and they were able to actually like let me say what I had to say, because of those shouting matches, and like you had to say something a little louder than me. Just like for a little bit of context, if we were like complaining about life being hard, they'd be like, "You think life is hard for you?" Like, especially in like more so when we were young, like we'd be like, "Oh, people are mean to us at school, and you think that's hard." It was the oppression Olympics, right? I'll tell you, I'll give you hard. And it was like, I went to school on one meal for the entire day, and with shoes that had no soles, and I had to walk 400 kilometers to get there. Meanwhile, you guys get school buses, but we had to walk on foot, hungry. And then when we get to school, if we didn't get the lesson right, we'd get beat by the priest. And it was just like, I'm really sorry that happened to you, Dad, but I'm talking about me and my problems right now. But it was like a way to invalidate our feelings. And so that's all part of like when I talk about emotional abuse, like I didn't recognize emotional abuse because I was so conditioned to it until way later in life. And so that kind of environment, like telling them like, yo, y'all fumbled the bag here. And that's not to say I don't take accountability for my own actions. I do. I still made poor choices, but it's like that upbringing was a whatever factor. Well, it was a factor in me making the choices that I did. And my father was actually able to apologize and be like, you know what, like, yeah, in some areas, like we definitely didn't do great, and we were doing the best we could, and we thought we were doing great. So it was nice to be able to have that confirmation and even a kind of validation. I wouldn't say validation, but sort of. And that brings me to validation and approval. Like I feel like that kind of upbringing makes you constantly seek validation and approval from the outside because you're not getting it at home. And I realize now that my father maybe would have never given me the validation I was looking for because, like, he didn't have it to give, right? But here's one thing he did do. Before he passed, as I mentioned, I'm a creative. I draw, I write children's books and stuff. And so I was drawing around the end of the holidays. And I showed him, like, that little 5-year-old girl shrunk again. Good or bad, I'd be shrinking. And I was like, Daddy, look, my drawing. And then he was like, oh, wow. Make that my WhatsApp profile picture. This is huge, let me tell you. My father's never impressed, okay? I could have come and been like, Dad, I have a job and I make $1 million. And he would have been like, cool story. Okay, maybe not $1 million, but I just feel like every time if it's something he did not understand, if I was like, look, Dad, I did this and it was awesome, he'd be like, okay, good for you. And I always felt like I had to do something more to get that, like, wow, like, that's my daughter. I remember telling him once, like, I do permanent brows now. I took a course and I'm going to be doing this. And he's like, pagate figu muño. Like, don't ruin the people's faces. Like, thanks, Dad. Thanks for the vote of confidence. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So this is the man. I'm going to show him my drawing, right? And he's like, make it my WhatsApp profile picture. So this is why it's so huge. I do another one, and this time it's my sister and I. It's like 2 little black girls skating. And I'm like, look, Dad, I did one with the both of us this time. And he's like, no, make that one my profile picture. And I was like, no way, not again. So needless to say, I felt proud. Oh, Daddy. And I posted it, and he died a couple of weeks later. And I think that was the validation. That was like a like the approval I think I've been looking for all my life, and he gave that to me before he passed. So yeah, I think, again, I see it now. I understand that he loved me. I understand that they loved me. I understand why they did a lot of what they did, even if it was sideways. I think it was really important to have that conversation with them to clear things up and to establish that, like, things couldn't have, things could have been better. And now, knowing better, doing better. And there you have it. That's my experience. Now it's your turn. How has your cultural heritage shaped your values and perspectives? Share it in the comments below. Thank you for joining me today. Thanks for allowing me to share. It's always good to remember that our personal experiences shape us in unique ways. And it's also important to embrace our cultural heritage because it's a part of who we are. Now, don't forget to share your own stories and perspectives in the comments below. And until next time, stay encouraged and keep growing. Bye for now.